My employee ID, I said, incompetent. Saying this, my son came back home, and sure enough, the word useless was written on his ID. My son James attended the company's orientation, but for some reason, he came back home immediately. Even though I told him it was okay to quit the job, the responsible James said he wanted to keep trying. But when I saw James coming home in tears, I reached my breaking point. Right after James came back, I stormed into the orientation and immediately fired all the employees. The employees were shocked to see me and greeted me with smiles, but it was too late. Despite their resistance, I expelled everyone who insulted James. Later, the employees regretted their actions and descended further into misery. My name is Robert Johnson. I turned 48 this year. I married my wife, Mary, who is 1 year younger than me, and our son James was born the following year. James turned 27 this year and finally attended the orientation as a new graduate. This was because he had taken a break from college, delaying his graduation by several years. The reason for his leave was due to health issues, but I believe it was a good decision to let him take that break. Even if James had continued going to college and found a job, he probably wouldn't have kept up with his studies. By allowing him a proper period of recovery, James is now healthy and doing well. Tomorrow, James will finally attend the company's orientation. He's been eagerly anticipating it for over a week. Seeing how excited he's been, I was genuinely happy for his new beginning. So the day before, I prepared James's favorite curry rice and fried chicken, and the three of us celebrated together. It might be tough for us to have dinner together as a family for a while. Why? Well, you'll be busy as a new employee, but we should still find time to eat together, right? As James said this, he kept eating his favorite fried chicken. Tomorrow, James becomes a working adult. I watched him, thinking how small he was when he was born. The next morning, dressed in his suit, James paused at the front door and looked back at us with a smile. "Dad, I'm off." "Yeah, take care." After a brief exchange, James opened the door with a refreshed look on his face. The orientation would be held after the company's introductory ceremony, so James would probably come home in the evening. He'd be tired when he got back, so I'd make sure dinner was ready for him right away. Mary and I decided to finish preparing dinner before James returned, so we headed to the grocery store. However, when we got back, we found the front door unlocked for some reason. "Oh, I must have forgotten to lock the door. I'm sorry." "Don't worry, everyone makes mistakes. As long as nothing's stolen, it's fine." I said this and opened the door. There I saw the dress shoes that James had worn that morning. "Wait, he's already back? I thought the ceremony just ended. What's going on?" "James, where are you?" Feeling something was off, we headed to the living room. There we found James with red, teary eyes. "What happened? Is everything okay?" My employee ID said, "Useless." Shocked by James's words, I took the ID from his hand. Sure enough, the word useless was written in large letters with a marker. "What is this?" "This is terrible." When they handed me the ID, it was already written on it. Why would they do something like this? They said it was because I'm older than everyone else. Apparently, someone did this because they found out James was older than the other new hires. I couldn't forgive anyone for doing this to my precious son. "I'll take care of this." "It's okay, I can handle it. I'll work hard from tomorrow." Even though I wanted to do something, James insisted I shouldn't. But no parent can stay silent when their beloved child is hurt. After comforting the crying James, I headed to the company. It seemed the orientation wasn't over yet. It was about to end, but I barged in anyway. "It looks like my son was harassed by someone. Does anyone know anything about this?" "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" "Get off the stage." A man with a badge that said Daniel around his neck spoke to me as I forcibly took the stage. Still, I continued without caring. Someone wrote useless on James Johnson's employee ID. Does anyone know who did it? "Oh, you're his father. Do you know something?" It seemed this man, Daniel, knew what happened at the orientation. He chuckled at my question and said something unbelievable. I wrote that everyone else just laughed along. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. "If you're so curious, you can watch the video," Daniel said, bringing over a camera set up next to the stage. It was there to record the orientation. Not knowing what to expect, I watched the video, and what I saw was shocking. In this company, they hand out IDs to each new employee on stage. There was James with a stunned expression on his face as he received his ID. While James stood there frozen, Daniel spat out these words: "This guy joined 4 years late. That's why he's more useless than everyone else." At first, the employees were all stunned, but as Daniel continued, laughter gradually broke out. "We're supposed to hire only competent people, so why did someone like you get in? Why are you doing this to me? It's because you can suffer even more in the future." James was publicly humiliated for no good reason, and it must have deeply wounded him. To make matters worse, Daniel and the other new and current employees laughed at James as he cried, "What's wrong? It's true your son is useless." "Right, on what grounds? He just took a few years off from school." "He must have taken time off because he couldn't keep up with his studies, right?" It seemed Daniel misunderstood and didn't grasp his position. Without knowing why James took a leave from school, Daniel harassed him, assuming he was just a poor student. Maybe there had been others who were bull-eyed like this at previous orientations. Daniel seemed so casual about it, as if he was used to it. "You act like you know everything, but you don't. You're probably not much of an adult yourself. Just look at you. Isn't that right?" As soon as Daniel said that, all the employees laughed loudly. Why were they all listening to him like this? I wondered if Daniel held some kind of power. Otherwise, it would mean all the employees had bad personalities. Either way, my only concern was protecting James. Taking a deep breath, I said, "All of you leave here right now." "What? Are you out of your mind? If anyone's leaving, it's you." "Are you sure about that? What are you trying to say?" The employees still seemed to take this situation lightly. They must have thought I was just some crazy guy watching the scene unfold before them. But that was because they didn't know who I really was. So I decided to reveal my true identity for the first time. "I apologize for the delay. My name is Robert Johnson. I'm the next CEO of this company." "What? The next CEO?" "You may not have met me, but you've probably heard my name. Actually, my father, John, is the current CEO of this company. I'm currently the CEO of a subsidiary, but when my father steps down, this company will be mine too." Since I rarely interacted with the employees, few recognized me as the next CEO. In fact, as soon as I introduced myself, the laughter stopped completely. "I've heard the name, but there's no way that's true." "Why are you so sure?" "Because that would mean your son might be the future CEO too, right?" "That's correct. So you realize you've done something truly outrageous." After a brief silence, Daniel clapped his hands and laughed loudly. It seemed he didn't believe I was the next CEO. "Why don't you come up with a more believable lie? This is just too much." "That's right. Can you leave now? You're ruining our orientation." As I continued to stand there, the employees began voicing their complaints. Worse yet, they started bad-mouthing me and James. "Being called useless is your own fault, isn't it?" "Well said. You'll make a great employee someday." "I just got a compliment. Wow." Watching Daniel and the employees, I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't believe the employees at my father's company could be so cruel. But what was happening before my eyes was the reality. I quietly took a business card from my breast pocket and handed it to Daniel. "What's this?" Daniel took the card, laughing, but as soon as he read the text, his face turned serious and he started trembling. "Do you understand now? All of you are fired on the spot." Hearing the word "fired," The employees began to stir. No way, but even if you're the next CEO, firing everyone is too much. Is it? You called the next CEO's son useless, and you all mocked me. I don't want to work in a place with employees like you, and I won't let my son work here either. It's true I'm not the CEO of this company yet, but if I show my father what happened here, he'll surely agree with me. The disorientation is over. Go home and await your punishment. I took the SD card from the camera and left. Then I headed straight to my father, showing up at the airport out of the blue. That's unusual. What's going on? Did something happen? My father was surprised since I came without any notice. He was supposed to be late for the orientation due to a business trip, so I came to pick him up at the airport. I handed the SD card to my father, who was still unaware of the situation. I need you to see this. It's footage from today's orientation at your company. What do you mean? Did you attend the orientation? Just watch. You'll understand. I played the video from the SD card on a computer at my parents' house. My father watched in silence, but his clenched fist showed he was clearly angry. James came home in tears. I want to do something about this. I never imagined my employees could be like this. I want to fire them immediately. Firing everyone might be a bit much, I replied. It seemed difficult for my father to imagine the company without any employees. They've always operated with a small team, and everyone was fairly competent. I'll think about it. For now, go home and take care of James, okay? I will. As my father instructed, I went home that day. He mentioned that firing everyone might not be possible, but if that happens, James will have to work in that environment. Switching to another company is an option, but doing so right after joining would make James seem like a problematic person. Besides, I want James to eventually take over the company. As time continued to pass, I received a call from my father the next day. Until then, I had been encouraging James and discussing what we should do next. During that time, my father called me. I've made some decisions. Can you come to the company? Got it. I'll be there right away. As my father instructed, I headed to the company he manages. He said he had made up his mind, but I wondered what decision he had reached. I walked to the company with heavy steps, curiosity and concern weighing on me. When I arrived, the hallway to the office was unusually quiet. Puzzled, I opened the office door and saw the employees apologizing deeply to my father. What is going on here? We are deeply sorry. We will never let this happen again. It was just a little prank. We'll make sure it never happens again. Daniel and the other employees seemed to be pleading with my father, but my father stood still with his arms crossed, watching them intently. What you did is absolutely unforgivable, and I have no intention of reversing the firings. Please just don't fire us. We're begging you. It seemed the employees had come to protest after being fired by my father. What you did was bad enough to warrant being fired. At that moment, the apologizing employees turned to look at us. They seemed shocked to see me and James. Actually, before leaving the house, James had asked to come with me. Why are you here? I called them. You need to apologize properly. Why did you do such a cruel thing? Because someone who took years off from school can't be smart. Daniel implied that this situation was James's fault, but the people here didn't know why James took a leave of absence. My son took time off because he had a serious illness. What do you mean? James had always been an excellent student, but he was too kind and had a very sensitive heart. However, after facing challenges abroad, he came back mentally stronger. By the way, James attended a very prestigious university overseas that everyone knows. You must have heard of it at least once. Are you saying he went to that university? Yes, he spent 4 years there and then came back to graduate from a university here as well. I had no idea. When Daniel realized James attended a better university than he did, his shoulders slumped. The other employees were also shocked by James's impressive background. After that, the employees were formally dismissed. Since the company didn't have a large number of employees to begin with, we supplemented the staff with people from the subsidiary. If there had been no subsidiary or if the company had more employees, it would have been a much bigger problem. However, my father decided it was necessary to fire all the employees. Many probably didn't expect to lose their jobs right after the orientation, but their collective harassment of James was unforgivable. Moreover, James is someone with great potential for growth. People who try to undermine a valuable asset to the company have no place here. So I wanted to eliminate anything that could hinder progress. Even I didn't expect to end up firing everyone, but since doing so, the company's performance has significantly improved. Maybe the employees who tried to bring others down were the reason for the decline in performance. While the exact cause and effect isn't clear, negative attitudes do show on one's face and could have been noticed by our clients. In the future, I decided to carefully observe the character of anyone we consider hiring. The mass firing became a major issue with mixed reactions, but most agreed it was the right decision. Especially those who had experienced similar situations to James supported the move. James also received many messages of support. Some found the courage to quit their jobs, and others became more assertive with their bosses. Entering the workforce brings many challenges all at once. Everyone has their own struggles, but in the end, we're all human. I hope for a world where people support each other more. The mass firing of all employees became a significant issue, and many struggled to find new jobs, especially Daniel. He instigated the others and found it difficult to get rehired at the age of 50. He managed to get a job through a temp agency, but it wasn't going well. Apparently, Daniel's parents ran a famous company, and while he worked at our company, he used that as leverage to control other employees. However, he had been cut off from his family for his reckless behavior. Being disowned by family is almost unthinkable, unless it's something extreme. The employees who were swayed by Daniel must be regretting it deeply now. Believing in Daniel led them to get fired from a company they had just joined, forcing them to start job hunting again. While young employees might not have been able to speak up against Daniel, joining him in harassment was morally wrong. I hope this incident serves as a wake-up call for them. The company's improved performance is also partly thanks to James. He excels at problem-solving and quickly identifies missing elements in the company. As a result, we can now work without any trouble. My father is still the CEO, but I will take over eventually. When that time comes, I'll be able to work with James. By then, James will have grown even more as a professional, possibly surpassing me. Thinking about it makes me excited for the future. James enjoys his work every day, and it's clear that he thrives in an environment that suits him. In a few years, or maybe even just 6 months, James will likely move out. When that happens, it would be just Mary and me. That won't be bad, but I plan to enjoy my time living with James.